I promise that I won't make this very boring. I promise it's going to be kind of laid back, interactive. You guys seem like a lively bunch, so I think I'm already good there. I can imagine there's probably at least 5 different places you'd rather be than sitting here. So we'll make this as quick and painless as possible. My name is Ronny. I'm with the Mid-State Group, and Michelle and Tiffany and them asked me to come in and kind of go over some harassment training with you, review some certain topics and that sort of thing. Excuse me, I'm a little out of breath this morning. Not sure why, but with me today I have Sarah. And 2 things. Sarah has become an intern over the last couple months, and 2 things that I've learned about Sarah is, number 1, she thinks I'm the weirdest person that she's ever worked for. And number 2, if I don't make a big deal out of her at these kinds of things, she kind of feels left out. So if we can kind of all get together on the count of 3 and say good morning to Sarah, you'd help me out a lot. 1, 2, 3. Good morning, Sarah.
Good morning.
Thank you. 2 questions I have to ask before we get started here this morning, and this is just because you don't know anything about me, I don't know anything about you. And these 2 questions pretty much give me an idea of what I need to know. So, question number 1. How many Hokie fans do I have in the room? Oh, that's a lot. Okay. Not surprised, not surprised. Now, the more important question of the day, do I have any fellow Cavalier fans in the room? Yes. Woo! Right. I could probably do a pretty good job at creating a hostile work environment.
You're harassing us right now.
That's right. That's right. I love doing these types of things on football season because it's really easy for me to create that environment. One day we'll get a good football team. Anyway, without prolonging this any longer, harassment. When I say harassment, throw out some of the types of things that first come to mind. Verbal, yeah.
Anything that makes you uncomfortable.
Very good. Mm-hmm.
Crime.
Right?
Unwanted.
That is exactly what I was looking for. Unwanted. Any physical, verbal, non-physical, non-verbal type of harassment makes you uncomfortable or creates a hostile work environment for you. We think, okay, well, what's a hostile work environment? It's any kind of environment that makes you unable to perform your job without being uncomfortable, without distracting you from being able to do your type of job. Let's think about some of the different types of harassment that might cause that. Think about it. We hear about sexual harassment all the time. What do you think the #1 type of harassment of the last couple years is? And I'll give you a hint. Think back to elementary school.
Bullying.
Can you believe it? I thought we left that on the playground when we were 5. But bullying has become the #1 type of harassment. And give me some examples of how you would think you'd be bullied in the workplace. Obviously physically, right? Verbally. I mean, there's a lot.
Kind of discriminatory action.
Right. Creating maybe an environment or for someone not to be able to succeed, that sort of thing. Thinking about maybe spreading malicious rumors about somebody so they can't get a promotion, that sort of thing. Constantly changing their work guidelines so they can't accomplish what they set out to do for the day, the week, the month. Yelling, using profanity, that kind of thing. Stalking has actually become another type of harassment. Let's think about religious harassment. How could somebody be harassed based on religion? You want to take a guess?
You have to be Muslim.
Make them work on the meeting.
You're in a bind. You've been in a bind for about the last decade as far as just trying to do your job versus where it comes from.
You're right. We work in such diverse groups nowadays. You know, you've got people that are making fun of people that may dress differently. They might have a religious headdress that they wear. They might view different holidays and not celebrate Christmas or Easter, and ridiculing them, making fun of them for those types of things. You hear a lot about racial harassment, jokes, that sort of thing. How about harassment based on disabilities? We've got a lot of people in the office where we work, and you may think that you're just joking with them over a disability, and they joke back and that kind of thing, but really, they might be internalizing it, and it's probably not a good idea to start doing those kinds of things. Sexual harassment, we hear about that most often, and I'm going to read a definition gonna see if anybody in here can get this term. Unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature constitute what, when submission to such conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly as a term or condition of an individual's employment, or submission or rejection of such conduct by an individual is used as the basis for employment decisions affecting an individual. Does anybody know what kind of sexual harassment that is? It's a really funny word. Let me take a guess. Ever heard of quid pro quo? Basically what it means is this for that. If you do this for me, you'll get that. Tit for tat, that kind of thing. If you do this favor for me, you'll get a raise. If you get this favor for me, you'll get a promotion. That sort of thing. I had a lady come up to me after one of our seminars and told me she had a situation where she worked for a family-based environment. Her boss was the brother of the owner, who was the brother, the sister of the HR person, so on and so forth. She was in a position where she and another man had the same job, but her supervisor, who was a man, always asked her to come on road trips with her, overnight trips. That makes it uncomfortable when you no need for that. And so she actually declined many times, and he ended up demoting her. There's a problem with that, right? She didn't feel like she had anywhere to go because everybody was related to him. So unfortunately, she ended up quitting, and that actually happens more often than not. What I kind of want to do with you guys real quick, make this a little bit different before we proceed, I want you guys to kind of break up into groups of 6 or 7. What I want to do is we're going to work through a couple case scenarios as a group, and then we're going to come back together and continue. So if y'all break up right now, then I'll pass these out for you.
Wow. And with Salem, I've seen language.
All right. All right, who's my group leader?
What'd you say? Well, I won't say that.
Okay, case scenario number 1. While at work, Nina frequently makes personal phone calls to her friends. Her conversations are loud and generously sprinkled with foul and obscene language. Her coworkers in nearby cubicles cannot help but overhear her conversation. Can Nina's behavior be interpreted as sexually harassing? Why or why not? Let's hear it. What you got?
My group said no, that's unprofessional. The language, but it's not sexual harassment.
It's not sexual.
It's just inappropriate, not.
We went with yes because it's a can it be? And so based on what she's saying, easily could be based, if it's offensive to those around her based on her particular type of language or the topic that she's addressing.
Yes, very good. Depends on what she said, right? But let's say she wasn't saying anything of sexual nature. Would it still be a form of harassment?
Yes.
No, it could be annoying and
Right.
a nuisance.
Could be. Does it have to be actually directed at someone that's in the room?
No, because it's creating an environment.
That's right. It's creating a hostile work environment for those around you. Go ahead.
But then don't you get into a little bit of subjectivity where in one situation, say you work, we were talking about, say you work for a construction site. That kind of conversation is going to be very different and wouldn't necessarily be offensive to anybody. I think you have to try and maybe let other people know it bothers you and maybe then work it that way. But
Exactly, and that we'll kind of get into that towards the end when we talk about, how to approach this type of situation if you were a person that's offended and that kind of thing. So we'll get into that in just a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think you should define and give some more parameters or boundaries, because it could be a person that is kind of left out of things socially, and they're
Right.
just offended because they're not a part of the fun and games.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that so they could say they're being harassed and they're not.
Right.
So there should be some more.
Some more parameters for that. Anybody have any other comments about this one? Okay. Number 2, Michael persists in asking his coworker Maria out to dinner. even though she turns him down each and every time he requests a date. She has told him several times to stop asking. Michael's behavior does not constitute sexual harassment because sexual harassment may only occur between a male boss and female subordinate. True or false?
False.
Very good. Number 3, Alexander frequently tells off-color jokes during team meetings. Amy is very offended. She doesn't think Alexander's jokes are so funny. Alexander's behavior is not harassment because his jokes are all in fun and he does not intend to harass anyone. True or false?
False.
False. Number 4, Susanna and Hank enjoy a great working relationship and just recently have started dating. They can't seem to get enough of each other. They take breaks and lunch together and are often seen flirting at the coffee machine. They're clearly infatuated with each other. Romance has no place at work. This couple's behavior is clearly at risk of sexual harassment. Let's hear it together.
True.
True. Why?
It's at risk.
At risk? Why?
That's the question. Because if they break up and one of them is mad about it, they could harass the other one. If it gets to the point where they're having a lot of physical contact in the work environment, sneaking kisses or whatever, that could be offensive to somebody if they found them or whatever. It's at risk.
It's at risk. But is what they're doing sexual harassment though?
No,
Right. Why is that?
because it's consensual.
Voluntary.
Perfect. Consensual. Right. The actual scenario, as far as it goes, is no, it's not sexual harassment. Now, could it be violating other policies such as a PDA policy? And could it be something that you guys don't particularly care to look at? Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. But you're right, it could become harassment if they were to break up.
Could it be harassment for their audience?
It would create probably a work environment you really wouldn't want to work in, and it would be violating other policies, like I said, such as a PDA policy and that sort of thing. And is it inappropriate in the workplace? Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
Pretty inefficient in the workplace too.
Inefficient, yeah.
They're wasting.
Yeah, you're gonna feel like that.
Yeah. Productivity might go down, right? Good talk. Okay, number 5. Thomas and Olga, advertising sales executives, traveled together on a week-long business trip. In the taxi ride from the airport to the hotel, Thomas snuggles up to Olga and tries to hold her hand. Olga strongly objects, and Thomas backs off. While Olga finds Thomas's behavior offensive and unwelcome, the regulations regarding sexual harassment in the workplace are not relevant since Thomas and Olga were not at their usual workplace when the incident happened. True or false?
False.
Doesn't matter, does it?
Location doesn't matter.
That's right. Number 6, Anthony is a vice president of marketing at Easy Interactive Company and has hired Rosa just out of graduate school as his assistant. Sometime after Rosa started working at the company, Anthony tells her that the only way she can keep her job at Easy Interactive is by having sex with him. Rosa refuses and is fired a few months later for no reason. Rosa is the target of sexual harassment. True or false?
True.
What kind of sexual harassment? Whoa. Good job.